Hi everybody, this is Rabbi David Foreman and you are watching Aleph Beta. Tisha B'Av is upon us. What are we supposed to do on this day? What do we do on the day? We read a book called Lamentations. We sing laments. It seems pretty clear what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to mourn, we're supposed to cry. But I have a question for you, is that enough? Mourning and crying is what you do as an instinctive reaction to loss, but it doesn't change the loss. Okay, so maybe this year, you come home from Eicha and you have your bare feet and then you read some Lamentations in the morning and you're feeling a little sad, but just to make yourself feel a little sadder, maybe you'll watch some of Schindler's List. And then, if you can cry a little bit, have you sort of done what you're supposed to do on Tisha B'Av? Or is there more to do? And if there's more, what more would that be? Here's a way maybe we should think about it. What does effective mourning look like? Is there such a thing as effective mourning? Mourning that doesn't just mourn loss, but does something too? Is reparative or restorative in some way? I think we have a model for that in the Torah. Rachel, mother of our people. That's at least how Jeremiah seems to see it. I'm referring right now to probably the most famous verses in the entire book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah actually portrays the afterlife of another biblical figure. We are given a vision of Rachel weeping on high in the realms of heaven. Kol Brahma Nishma, he says. There's a voice that's heard on high. And he bechi tamrurim, a voice that's crying, bitter, bitter cries. Rachel mevaka al baneha. It's the voice of Rachel. She's crying over her children being led into exile. Jeremiah, of course, lives through the very first exile, the destruction of the first temple. This is a prophecy that is describing all of these hundreds of thousands of children of Rachel leaving the land of Israel. They're being led away into captivity by Nebuchadnezzar's troops. That's what's happening on earth. And in heaven, Rachel is crying. Me anali nachem. She refuses to be consoled. Al baneha ki einenu, for her children, because they're not there. They're being led away. She's desolate. And then Jeremiah gives us God's response to Rachel. Ko amar Hashem, thus says God, min'i kolech mibechi, hold back your voice from crying, veinayich midima, and dry your eyes from the tears. Ki yesh sachar lipulatech, for there's reward for what you've done. V'shavu me'eretz oyev, your children will return from the land of the enemy. Yesh tikva la'achritech, there is hope for you in the end. Ne'um Hashem, v'shavu vanim ligvulam, your children will return to their rightful borders. That's a pretty comforting prophecy. On Tisha B'Av, if we mourn exile, here's the promise that exile will be over. Rachel's tears were really effective. If somehow we could learn to do what Rachel did here, if we could be answered the same way she was answered, that'd be amazing. So on the one hand, we might try to emulate Rachel here to whatever extent we can, but it's a double-edged sword because maybe it's completely impossible to emulate her. She, after all, was the mother of our entire people, and she was crying over them like only a mother can. There is no more poignant an image than that of a mother crying over her lost children. And we might well say, if that's what it takes to storm the gates of heaven, if that's what it takes to get God to commit to lift the exile, then only Rachel can do it. She's the mother of our people, and we're not. We cannot possibly evoke the same response from God. Does this picture of Rachel that Jeremiah gives us lead us nowhere but a dead end? I want to suggest to you that, in fact, this portrayal of Rachel that Jeremiah gives us has much to teach us indeed. Because if you look carefully at what Jeremiah is saying, yes, Rachel is successful in storming the heavenly gates, but she is not successful simply because she cries. She is not successful simply because she is a mother in anguish. There's a hidden secret to her success. Here again was God's response to Rachel. Min'i kolech mibechi veinayich midima. Hold back your voice from crying, dry your eyes from your tears. Now the next thing God is going to do is give a reason as to why Rachel should be consoled. He's going to tell her what about her made such a difference to the Almighty himself. Well, we might say, well, because I've listened to your voice, I've seen your tears. I have compassion for your plight. But interestingly, that's not what God says. Why should you dry your tears? Ki yesh sachar lipulatech, for there is reward for your actions. Reward for your actions? All she did was cry. You get listened to if you cry, maybe. You get compassion if you cry. You don't get rewarded if you cry, do you? I mean, even if that's what Jeremiah was trying to say, that wouldn't even be the way to say it. Jeremiah should have said, Ki yesh sachar lidim'atech. There's reward for your tears. But he doesn't say that. Yesh sachar lipulatech. There's reward for your actions. But what were her actions beyond cry? Jeremiah is doing something remarkable here. Yes, God listens to Rachel, but no, not out of compassion. Not because he felt this great sense of mercy because there was a mother who cried. There was another reason. He listened to her because she deserved to be listened to. Because there's something she had done. Something so powerful, so heroic, that this quiet act lay hidden for centuries until it would finally burst forth and be rewarded with the return of hundreds of thousands of Rachel's children to their land. And the tantalizing question that Jeremiah is holding out to us is, what was that thing that she did? In the videos ahead, I want to explore these verses that we've just read in great detail with you because I think they hold deep insight into several very important things. First, what does it mean to cry before God, to mourn successfully before the Almighty? And second, a question intimately bound up with the first. Who was this woman whose actions made such a difference to God? We know so little about her. On the one hand, she's a very compelling figure in our imagination. The grave of Rachel in Bethlehem is one of the most visited sites in Israel today. Hundreds and thousands of people go there to pour out their hearts before God, probably because of this verse in Jeremiah that portrays Rachel as a caring mother who pours out her heart to God on behalf of us. But that's in the book of Jeremiah. In the book of Genesis that actually tells the story of Rachel, we know so little about her. Yes, we know that Jacob fell in love with her, but what was it about Rachel that made him so entranced with her? We know that Jacob worked for 7 years for her, but that's not about her, that's about him. We know that she was locked in rivalry with her sister. They had both married the same man. We know she stole some idols at the end of her life. We know that she died in childbirth. Okay, but why is the text so maddeningly silent about this woman who's the mother of our nation? But maybe the text isn't silent. Maybe Jeremiah is teaching us how to read that text in Genesis. And indeed, that is exactly what I think is going on. If we look at these verses in Jeremiah carefully, we will find nothing less than a grand rereading of the life of Rachel itself. We will understand deeply who she was, why she should matter to us, and why her actions mattered so deeply to God. We'll be able to learn from those actions, I think, so that our actions too might matter so deeply to the Almighty.